continuing today our series called Images. Every Sunday we have an image. You'll find it on the front of your bulletin there. And that image is sort of the focal point of the message. This past week, we had a message last Sunday called Crispy Christianity, How to Deal with Spiritual Burnout. And this was the image we used. It is a picture of Jesus on the front porch of a building, looks like in Italy. And we have a man with his head on the lap of Christ. His briefcase is open. His papers are askew. Quite frankly, the guy looks pretty fried. Just burnout. We talked about burnout oftentimes looks different than we might think. Burnout looks like complaining a lot. Burnout looks like frustration. Burnout looks like being judgmental with people. But that was last week. This week, we come to a new message in a new image. Do you check your bags or carry on? That's the name of this message. Do you check your bags or carry on? Here we have a picture of a family that has broken down, looks like years ago, looks like in the 40s, maybe 50s, and they're having to hoof it. Looks like they're going to the gas station, and Dad has a piece of luggage. Jesus has 4 pieces, and he's walking on ahead. That's interesting. When I was a kid, my dad used to break down. I used to laugh hysterically. I thought it was funny. When you broke down on the side of the road, I don't know why. There's something weird about me. I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere and it was raining or snowing or something, that was even better. And I'm kind of twisted in that way because my dad would get so frustrated, and I just kind of love seeing him get mad at someone besides me, I guess. Just kidding, Dad. I know you're watching. But I used to think it was hilarious because it was something different, something out of the ordinary. We're going to talk about today, do you check your bags or do you carry your bags on? And we'll get to that at the end. So let's turn in our Bibles, if we would, to Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 to 30. It's a very common scripture. Matthew 11, verse 28 to 30. Very common passage. You've heard this many times before. It's quoted often, but I'd like to go a little deeper with it this morning, if that's okay. Matthew 11, 28 to 30. I also want to share with you a verse that is very important to our church. We don't talk about this verse often, but it is essential in our culture today. It's 2 Timothy 4:2. You can look that up later. But it goes like this. Paul saying to his pastor friend Timothy, trying to train him up the way he should be, he says, now preach the word. Be prepared in season and out of season, correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and careful instruction. The key words there, preach the word. In a world where people are deviating from the word, redefining the word, relaxing the word, diluting the word, we can ill afford to do so. We must preach the word. So having said that, this is my own humble attempt to be as clear, as simple, as focused as possible on a passage of Scripture, neglecting almost everything else, to simply preach the word that sets us free. So here we are, Matthew 11, 28 to 30. And I know you just got comfortable, but I think it kind of honors the Lord if we stand when we read his word. It's a respect. It's a sign of respect. Let's stand for the reading of God's word. We're going to read it in unison together. Matthew 11, 28 to 30. Let's do that. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. You may be seated. All right, let's break it down, shall we? The Word of God. Red letters even, Jesus speaking. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. All right, let's notice something. Come to me, he says. You would think that if someone's heavy laden and burdened and exhausted, you'd almost be more prone to go to them, would you not? I picture the guy on the porch. Like, he doesn't look like he's going to go to anybody. You would think, well, God will go to that person. Well, that's not what Jesus is saying here. You might be a little bit weary. You might be a little bit out of balance. You might be a little bit frazzled, but he's saying, come to me. I know you're tired. I get that. I know you toil. I know you're disoriented. I know you're confused, but he still wants you to come to him. That's interesting. There's something in that. So you're not so weary, so tired that you don't have the energy to come to him. What he's saying is, no, I want you to come to me. First thing you notice in that, come to me. Why is he saying that? Well, I think it's this. weariness and fatigue. Sometimes we don't even know we have these things because we're going like so fast, 90 to nothing all the time. We can't even stop to pause to get some feedback from ourselves on where we are. We're like going nuts all the time. We don't even know if we're tired. He says, come to me. Now, you can read this a couple different ways, like, hey, man, come to me. Or say, no, don't go over there, come to me. Don't go over there, come to me. And I think that's what this is. Wait a minute, like you're in the best place you could be. You're in need of me, you're in need of my intervention, you're weak, you're frustrated, you're exhausted. He said, no, come to me. Why is he saying come to me? Because we go elsewhere. Because our first inclination oftentimes is to go over there to get our needs met. Not him primarily, not him first, over there. Over there to what? Well, I don't know, Scotch on the rocks. Newfangled diet pill. Tylenol, something simple. A relationship, another marriage. We get empty, we get fried, we get crispy, right? And we have to go do something. We have enough energy to go elsewhere, don't we? And where do we go? We go to another person, another relationship, another job, another business, another purchase, another commission, another medication, another drink, another narcotic, another whatever, another affair, another marriage. We keep going. He said, no, come to me, come to me, come to me. It's almost like, hey, man, whoa, stop, come to me, come to me, come to me. It's about two things, distance and direction. Whenever you line up a putt, I usually have really long putts. My putts are usually to the back door. When you line up a putt, there's two things to keep in mind. Well, there's a lot to keep in mind. But distance and direction are the top two. How much distance do I have, and in what direction I'm going to hit it? And then you'll factor in the distance needs to be factored in based on slope and grade and cut of grass and a number of other things. But for direction, Christ is saying, come to me first. Now you think this is a big deal. Like, why are you talking about this so much? Because I see people going elsewhere all the time. That's why I'm saying it. Don't go to Facebook first. You say, what are you talking about? I'm saying every time we have a problem, the first thing we do is tell the whole world about it. The second thing we do, maybe the third, perhaps the seventh, is tell the Lord about it. Come to me, he says. Come to me before your prayer partner. Come to me before the church. Come to me first. He would really like to be primary. Come to me. Who? All. 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 Everybody. There's no exclusion in this statement. There's no limitation. There's no exclusivity. All people who are weary. Everyone, come to me first, he says. Don't go to your government. Don't go for financial aid. Come to me first. You know, we have student debt that is going through the roof in this country. How much of that student debt would be alleviated and never even borrowed to begin with if every student in the country went to the Lord first for the provision for their college education? Who knows the answer to that? How would we ever know? We want immediate gratification with a God who's kind of slow on the uptake. And we don't like it, so we go elsewhere. But come all people. Fat people, skinny people, kids who climb on rocks, everybody come to this God. Come all people who are weary and burdened. And aren't we all at times? Aren't we all? And some of us are, and we don't even know it. Come to me, he says, everybody. If you're weary, I like the old King James, if you labor. I picture laboring. I drive to Florida sometimes. Some of you drive home to Florida, you drive right through those fields where those people are laboring in the fields in the heat of the summer in South Georgia. Laboring under the heat. You see the heat coming off the fields. You see the people moving about sort of slow and methodically doing their job. Laboring. He says, come on, everybody. Come on now. You come to me. All who toil, all who have burdens, all who grieve. He's including all these things. And boy, hasn't he experienced all those things. He had burdens. He grieved. He is a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. And all those who are loaded down with unwarranted precepts. What is that? Sounds fancy. All of those people who are weighed down, like hunched over by man-made laws and religious rules that nobody can stand up under. He's talking to the Pharisees about how your customs and your laws and your condemnation and your judgment just heaped on the backs of people. He says, you people come to me too. You come to me first. You've gone to those people and they've loaded you down with guilt. You come to me, he says. We'll take care of it. Come to me all you are weary and burdened. And then he says, and I will give you rest. Man, that sounds good. It really does. Rest. How do you give rest? You thought about that? Is it in a bottle? Was it packed? What is it? Jesus said, come to me, I'll just give it to you. Like, what is that? Like it's packaged, it's gift wrapped, it's in Tupperware? How does he give it to them? Does he just hand it to them? That doesn't make sense. How do you give someone rest? How do you give someone something they don't even know what it is sometimes? Well, what he wants to do is he wants to cause or permit one to cease doing something in their movement or labor in order to be recovered and collect their health and their rest again. He's looking for a transaction that ceases the very things that cause you to be exhausted so you can kind of collect yourself and be refreshed. I like that. That's what he's getting at. He's trying to find out what the root of the exhaustion is and remove it. That's the implication in that word. Let's remove the root of your exhaustion. Let's stop doing that, and I'll give you something in exchange for it. In other words, Jesus is big on buying stuff from us. He bought our sin so we could go without it. Now he's looking to purchase, like a coupon. I'd like to redeem this for your exhaustion, for your fatigue, for your confusion. You're disoriented, he says. Okay, well, how do you give this rest? And this is the thing a lot of people don't understand. You say, well, why make a big deal out of it? Because it is a big deal. Because it's the difference between you having rest and not having rest. That's why I'm making a big deal out of it. Rest isn't a thing. Rest is a person. Jehovah Shalom. He's not going to give you rest. He's going to give you a part of himself. And this is where we're back to the Holy Spirit again. How does he impart to a person something they need that they can't attain on their own? He has to give them part of himself. And we're back to the Spirit. There's spiritual answers for spiritual dilemmas, friend. And it's part. He wants to give a part of himself to you. It's Christ in you, the hope of glory. Christ imparts himself to us. This is what he's getting at. I like all the R words: revive, replenish, restore, recollect, recreate, recover. These are good words. I don't like the D words: despondency, depression, discord, divisiveness. R words are good. He wants you to have an R word. Pick one. I like restore and refresh myself. He says, I'm going to give you myself. Come, everybody, to me. I'll give you myself, because I know that's what you need anyway. And come to me first if you don't mind. And then he says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. All right, let's look at a picture of a yoke. We'll talk about this. Look at these poor guys here. 2 oxen yoked together, neither one too happy about it. Walking in unison. I don't like anything about that, really. Joined together. Nowhere else to go. Limited. Not a very good view. Life is determined for you. A little freedom to direct yourself. You're chained to some burden that's got you hunched over. You can't really go anywhere. And if you tried to peel off and go to the right or to the left, if you even tried to get away, the other guy would keep you from going there. It's really hopeless is what it is. But then Jesus says, I got this yoke. Oh, what is this now? I've got a yoke, he says, and you can take that upon you. Okay, I'm interested. And when you have that upon you, you can learn from me. I like that. So here's the question. Is the yoke on you this morning? Not the joke. Is the yoke on you? Are you yoked to your career? Are you yoked in a relationship? Are you unequally yoked? There's a bummer. One pulling more than the other? What happens when one pulls more than another? You go in a circle. You never go anywhere in life. Are you unequally yoked in a business partner, in a marriage, in a relationship, in a dating relationship? These are things I ask, because what he's looking for now, I want you to learn something from me, he's saying. When you're yoked to me, I'm going to teach you something. It's going to be about balance. Balance. Everyone pulling their own weight. Jesus has a yoke for sure. Now, if he's yoked to me, seems like it's a little out of proportion. Yeah, but there are certain things I do in a relationship with him that makes me a viable partner in the arrangement. There's actions and decisions and things I physically need to do in that relationship that he's not going to do for me. And because we're yoked together and I'm doing those things, it makes us sort of balanced as we go along. But I tell you what, it's a whole lot easier than these two animals. It should be effortless. Christianity shouldn't be striving and difficult. If it is, there's something very wrong with the way you're approaching it. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, he says, for I am gentle and humble in heart. I like this about him because I wouldn't want to be yoked to somebody who just takes off all of a sudden, or jerks one way to the right or over to the left and just yanks my head with him. I don't want a Lord like that. And I don't have one, and nor do you. He's gentle in the way he makes turns in our life, and he's gentle about picking up the pace, and he's gentle about slowing things down, and we're supposed to wait upon him, and he's the leader who's going to take us where we need to go. He doesn't do things abruptly. He's not impulsive. God's not impulsive. And this is why in the world of instant gratification, where we have a generation of people who can't talk to one another because they only text, and everything they ever wanted is within 4 digits and a PIN code away from them punching it in, we have a whole nation of people who think everything they want should be given to them yesterday. And we're yoked to a God who doesn't make abrupt turns, is not impulsive. And he moves at a gentle pace, and he's humble of heart. In the world in which we live, it gets more and more difficult to walk with Christ, because in the world in which we live, we're supposed to run with Christ. And hence the exhaustion, the weariness, and the heavy labor. He doesn't make sharp turns. I like the fact he's humble. Now, this word humble in here means he identifies with depression and lowliness. The last thing you want to tell a person who's struggling with depression is you need to get yoked to Christ. No yoke seems good to me in that situation. No yoke. Forget the yoke. But he says, no, that's what you want to do, because he understands depression. He understands betrayal. He understands loss. He understands being alienated. He understands death. He understands sickness. He understands abuse. He understands shame. He understands anything. That's who you want to be yoked to, see, first, because he understands the pace in which he can go with you, because he's been there. He's gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Here's where it is, man, the rest for your soul. Here it is. Not a kind of rest you get by going to Sandals in Jamaica. Not the kind of rest you get by going on a cruise. Not the kind of rest you have to travel around the world to pursue. It's a different kind of rest. It's a pervasive presence of peace and contentment regardless of where you are, what you're doing, and what you're dealing with. That kind of peace. It's an abiding kind of contentment. That out of that you encourage others, and you coach others, you counsel others, you build one another up. That rest. And it's for your soul. Not your body, your soul, your mind at rest, your will at rest, your emotions at rest. Sounds good, doesn't it? Go on a vacation. You can't get this on a golf course. Well, I guess if you shot par, you'd probably come close. I wouldn't know. You can't get it on a golf course. It's elusive everywhere in the world, but here, in this moment. It's a mind at rest, a heart at rest, it's feelings at rest. It's at peace with the world. And you could be physically exhausted in the middle of all of it and still have all three of those. You actually could be on your deathbed and have all three of these rest issues. It's not limited to your physicality, your physical well-being, this kind of rest. God created the world and then he stood back and rested. It's not that he was exhausted. It's a kind of rest that causes you to want to just look and enjoy and reflect and like, all right, okay, all right. You see it when you see your grandchildren walking across the room or playing in the backyard and you look at them and everything else goes away and you look at them and you go, oh, wow, look at that. That's rest. Nothing else matters, but in that moment, you're at peace. He says, that's what I want you to yoke up to. I can do that for you, he says. Come to me first. Anybody, come to me first, and I'll give you that. More and more and more and more, I'll give you that. Stop looking elsewhere first, would you please? My soul at rest. It's recreation. What is recreation? Recreation. Bringing you back to where you were created, at peace as an infant. You didn't have too many issues in the infant, did you? No. That kind of peace, that's what he says he has for you. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. It's manageable, he says. You don't have to kill yourself to maintain it. It's sort of an ongoing reality. I talked about this last week, the flow of grace. It's like getting in a river and being carried about. 1 Peter 2, 1 and 21. Prophecy has not its origin in the will of man, but these men were carried along by the Holy Spirit. They got into the flow of a relationship with God and with others that afforded them this ongoing rest, contentment, peace, a perception of the world that is healthy, effortless. There's an ease to it. This is what Christianity is supposed to be. We have to repurpose this Jesus into our life and get the heavy one off your back and put the light one on. Take off your old self and put on a new. Some of you grew up teaching your children legalism and you're paying the price for it. Sometimes it pushes people so far away you can never get them back. That's tough. This is a different kind of rest. So I ask you this question, do you carry on or you check your bags when you travel? Well, my wife and I have gone to Italy a number of times. We love it. And there's a restaurant over there that we feel is good enough to fly in 8 hours to get to. I don't know, it's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, she taught me and people that we travel with how to travel with one bag, really. It's a carry-on, no check bags, forget that. Just a carry-on. And you got to fold your clothes right and all that kind of stuff. So I don't check my bags often. But, you know, there is a time sometimes to check a bag. And sometimes you get one of these big honking things, man. You ever see those ones that come off the belt with all the duct tape on them and boxes with rope around them? Sometimes you just got to check. All right, so when I travel, I always carry this. This is with me everywhere I go. This is an old beat-up leather briefcase. The zippers came off 2 or 3 times, and then the strap broke, and so I took it to a cobbler in Silva, and he charged me like $15 to fix it because I didn't want to spend $160, $180 on a new thing, you know. So not all the loops and everything match, but who really looks at it? It's kind of beat up. Now, what do I carry on? When I walk on a plane and I have this with me, what do I carry with me everywhere I go? Things that I need immediately. Things that need tending now. Things that are important to me now. So what would be in here? Well, my computer's in here. I usually need that. Like this weekend, I went to Greenville with my family to go shop, and we throw this in the back because we usually go to Barnes & Noble and have to do something. Someone died over the weekend, and I had to call that family. I needed that contact information, or I got 3 weeks of sermons in here. I've gotten ideas I put in here. These things need tending to. I got issues about my family. I got my title to a truck we just bought. I got this Bible that I use on a regular basis. These are now things. So yesterday, we talked about when we're going on vacation this summer, you know. This is my carry-on, right? I carry these things with me because I can't put them off and they need tending to. And I have to tend to them. I have to do things with this bag. I'm doing films for the children's ministry, and I'm learning about children's ministry. So, oh, and here are my Tums. I got to have Tums. Because some of you people give me heartburn. That's a carry-on. That's a true carry-on. Now, when you check a bag, what is that? That's taking what you have, and you don't need it all the way. You don't need it right now. And you're going to put it in that bag, and you're going to entrust it to the care of another person, and sometimes pay them money for it. So you're going to pack your stuff up that you don't need with you. You don't need to carry with you. You don't need to carry that on your back. And you're going to give it to someone who's going to care for it for you. Well, here it is. There are some things in life that we need to carry, burdens we need to carry. And there's a lot of them he needs to carry. And we need to entrust to him. Because we can't carry him anymore. It's too much. We get too weighed down, we get weary, and then we get out of balance. We start walking in circles. We look up 10 years later, and we haven't gotten anywhere. There's some burdens we need to check. Now, what's the difference between these things? Well, this is about 30 days for me, man. Anything over 30 days, I ain't putting in here because I don't want to carry it around with me. What would go in there? Spiritually speaking, a stupid business decision I made years ago and lost a bunch of money. Can't do anything about it. Let's put it in here. Inmates are watching this. What did you do to get in prison 10, 15 years ago, 6 years ago? Who did you rob? Who did you hurt? Hey, man, you got to put it in here. You can't. It's done. You've got to fold it up and prepare it. You've got to ask for forgiveness, and you've got to put it in there, and you've got to entrust Christ to carry it up the road for you because it's too much. Too much condemnation, too much guilt, too much nightmares, too many cold sweats in the middle of the night, too much worry and anxiety. You got to check that bag. Your first marriage, yeah, you screwed it up. It's over. You got to check it. You got to entrust. Do what you got to do to fold it and prepare it to put it in there. You got to make amends. You got to ask for forgiveness. You got to make restitution, whatever it is, then put it in here and let him walk off with it. Ladies, people watching around the world, the baby that you aborted. That's a check item. It's a forgiveness issue. There's other burdens to carry. The Lord went to great lengths to carry that one for you. Check it. The abuse of childhood. You can't change it. Sometimes they're even gone now. We can't even say anything to them. That's a check item. The failed business, the bankruptcy. Maybe you could have raised your kid different. I don't know. I haven't met an expert on parenting. I met a lot who say they are. The stupid educational decision you make, the classes you never studied for, the people you let down, the affair, whatever. Eventually, you've got to fold and prepare it and put it in that thing and let it go. In fact, I wouldn't even go back to baggage claim to get it. Just let them have it. Let them have it. It's too much. Life's short, you know. I used to kick myself for I played 2 years of college basketball, and that was a big deal back then. I was a 17-year-old kid playing with 22-year-olds that had a wife and 2 kids. I had a driver's license, and I'm trying to play basketball with these grown adults, you know. I used to, for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I used to look back on that and say, well, I should have done more. I could have done more. And finally, I just had to check that bag. I mean, so what? It was way back then. It doesn't even mean anything now. Get rid of it. And there are some things that are tough to check, friend. They're tough to check because they provide us the animosity we need and want when we want to have it. and the hurt way down deep inside that wells up in the stupidest of situations and comes out as anger or accusation that brings you to points of exhaustion. Those are the toughest because they're so familiar to us, they become family. Our mistakes become so family to us, they're like a part of the family. Hey, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Gary Hewins. Here's all my mistakes. I carry with them everywhere we go. They're like children to me. I keep them, I raise them, I nurture them, I feed them, I bring them up from time to time, I educate them, they educate me, they tell me who I am, they tell me what I can do, they definitely tell me what I can't do. These are my miniature Satans that I walk around with all the time, my little demonic minions that I travel with, and everywhere I go, if I need them, I'll pull them up and I'll tell you I can't do something because of them. They never got checked. They're still in the carry-on. And whenever you need them, you just lift up the thing, and there they are. You pull them out and play with them. My mistakes. Come on. Check them. In airports today, it's becoming more and more difficult to check your bags. More and more difficult to do it free. Nobody seems to want them. They just want to weigh them. Everybody wants to weigh your bags and your baggage. Even ourselves. That guy broke down on the road with his family. And if I was in that picture, I'd be laughing my head off. But someone came along and picked up his bags, his frustration, his sorrow, his anger. And he says, I'll lead the way. I'll take him wherever you want to go. I paid for him. Why can't I take him? I paid for them. Why can't I have them? Come to me first. Who? Everybody. Everybody what? Everybody that's weary and heavy laden. Come to me first. Before you get married a second time. Before you start dating that girl or that guy. Come to me first. I can heal that. Check it. I'll take it. And then you get in the yoke that I have for you, it'll be fairly easy and fairly light. You'll love it. You will love it. Failure to check your bags, friend. You get on the plane, usually late. All of the overhead compartments are full. And here you are trying to put that and that, a floor lamp and a yak up in the middle of the top thing, as the comedian said. And everyone's looking at you like, really? Really? Really, you thought you'd walk onto a plane of 250 people and you're 249th? You're going to put your skis in the overhead? Come on. Check your bags, friend. Check your bags. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest for your soul. Think about that. Think about what you carried in here, and I want to encourage you to think about what you're going to carry out. Because there's too much going on around this place. There's too much. We're going to miss our plane for too much weight.